Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be covering the NBA slate on Draftkings for Thursday, October the 20th. We do have a two-game slate again for Thursday. We had a two-game slate opening night for Tuesday, had a massive slate on Wednesday, 12 games, and now we've got just two games again. So we're going to talk through this two-game slate. We're going to go game by game, talk about each team, kind of what stands out to me, taking a first look at this slate on Wednesday night. We do have at least two pretty good games here with the Bucks and the Sixers, and then we got the Clippers and the Lakers playing. But yeah, guys, before we talk through this slate, make sure you guys hit that like button down below if you do enjoy these DFS videos. If they do help you out a lot, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well if you have not yet. I'm going to be uploading NBA content all season. Even though we have NFL still going on too, and I'm trying to get up NFL content as well. Do plan on covering NBA at least Monday through Friday. Might get up some videos on the weekends too, but if you guys have been enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. And if you're new here, make sure to check out the sponsor of the video, Prize Picks. So Prize Picks, they are a player prop based DFS site, very simple and easy to use. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. They do have some projections posted right now for Thursday. There's really not a ton up at the time I'm making this video, but they do have a few props up. You can take a look at their board. Obviously, as we get closer to the start of the games on Thursday night, there will be a ton of props available that you can choose from. You can see what stands out to you. PrizePicks does offer a lot of other sports outside of just NBA, so if you do like to dabble into other sports, you can mix and match sports. You can make multi-sport entries on PrizePicks. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend you guys get over there. Make sure to sign up with promo code NOAH so that way you do get your first deposit matched up to $100. But let's talk through this two-game slate for Thursday night. So we're going to start off with the Bucks and Sixers game. And looking at this one, we got definitely some good pay-up options here. We have Giannis coming in at $10,700. We have Embiid coming in at $10,300. I mean, Giannis, we know what we're getting from him. Going to have a massive usage rate, going to be super, super productive on a point-per-minute basis. The Bucks are going to be without Chris Middleton to start the season, so that just means an even heavier role for Giannis. At 10-7, I think he's the best pay-up option on the slate. He's my favorite guy to go to out of all the studs. We know what Giannis is going to do when he's on the floor. Last season, Giannis had a 35% usage rate. He averaged over 1.7 Draftkings points per minute. There's nothing I can really say. Giannis is one of the top options pretty much any slate he's on, and especially on a two-gamer, he's going to look like a great pay-up option. So, ton of interest in Giannis today. I think Embiid makes some sense as well. Embiid was pretty solid in their opening night game. He did play pretty big minutes. He played 37 minutes on Tuesday night, had 26 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists, and a block. Finished with over 50 DraftKings points. At 10-3, I think he's in play. I think he's more of a tournament option, though. I do think that Giannis is probably the more optimal play, and I think Giannis is going to project better. But we're going to get big minutes from Embiid. We know he's going to have a massive usage rate. Even playing with James Harden, that has not affected Embiid's role at all. He's still going to dominate when he's out there. So I really can't say anything bad about Embiid. I just do prefer Giannis straight up. And then James Harden, you have at 9K. Now, James Harden was actually pretty good on Tuesday night. James Harden was not a guy that I had a ton of interest in on that two-game slate for opening night. But man, he was a GPP winner. If you had Harden on Tuesday, you were in pretty good shape because he had a big game, played 37 minutes, had 35 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. Harden was so up and down last season with the Sixers. Some nights he'd have some big games, and then some nights he'd have some really disappointing games. He did have a pretty good usage rate in their first game. He had a 26.5% usage rate. He did average 1.5 DraftKings points per minute. On the season, is Harden going to average 1.5 DraftKings points per minute? I don't think so. I don't think he's going to be as productive as Embiid. I mean, Embiid averaged 1.4 fantasy points per minute on Tuesday. Obviously, Harden is going to regress a little bit, but it was at least good to see him play well out of the gate. Maybe that can, maybe we'll see him play like that the rest of the season. Maybe he'll start to be more aggressive. I know he did get to the free throw line a lot on Tuesday night. This is definitely, not as good of a matchup. He's probably going to see a lot of Drew Holiday, who's a really good defender. I think Harden, again, he's once again probably more of a tournament play for me. I'll be interested to see if his ownership is a little bit inflated just because he did so well on Tuesday. He's fine, but I'm not prioritizing Harden on the slate. Drew Holiday at 7,900, I think is a fine mid-range play. He does see a nice little boost without Chris Middleton. We know he's going to have a pretty big role alongside Giannis. Last season, Drew averaged he averaged 1.14 fantasy points per minute, 23.7% usage rate. If you take Chris Middleton off the floor, those numbers are even better for Drew. And we know Drew's going to play big minutes here, so I think Drew is in play in the mid-range. Not at his price tag of 7,900. I think he's kind of priced where he should be. I don't think he's like a glaring option, but he is still viable for sure. And then we got some underpriced guys down here in the 5K range. So Tobias Harris, I did play in my main lineup on Tuesday. He wasn't great. He got off to a pretty solid start, but then he kind of cooled off in the second half. But Tobias Harris did play, pretty big minutes, 34 minutes, had 18 points, 2 rebounds, did have 3 steals. 5,500, I still think is too cheap for Tobias Harris. Most nights he's going to average around a fantasy point per minute, and most nights he's going to play like 35, 36 minutes. He still looks like a pretty good option here, kind of as a salary saver. I think Tyrese Maxey, once again, looks like a really good play. Tyrese Maxey was very popular on Tuesday's slate, and I think at 5,200, he'll probably be really popular once again. He's going to have a big role. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Maxey taking like a big lead this season, being more aggressive offensively. In their first game, he played 38 minutes. I think he played the most minutes on the team, 21 points, 1 rebound, 2 assists, 2 steals. I think he did take a good amount of shots as well. He took 16 shots. If he's going to continue to be aggressive offensively, if he's going to continue to play huge minutes on a nightly basis, 5,200 is just too cheap for Maxey. So both Tobias Harris and Tyrese Maxey, I think, are pretty solid options. I definitely like Maxey a ton. And then we need to pay attention to the Bucks starting lineup. So I did not mention the Bucks projected starting lineup right now, at least on the site that I'm looking at, is Drew Holiday, Grayson Allen, Giannis, Bobby Portis, and Brook Lopez. I'm not confident that Bobby Portis starts. I think they could start Wesley Matthews. I think they could start Jordan Nwora. But if Bobby Portis does start, we know Bobby Portis is a really good point per minute player. And I assume that if he winds up starting, he probably plays like 25 to 28 minutes. So at 5,400, I definitely will have interest in Bobby Portis if he does start. If he doesn't, he would still be playable, but I just wouldn't be as confident in him. And I think his minutes wouldn't be as high coming off the bench. But we know Bobby Portis can produce when he gets opportunity. There's obviously some usage to go around with Chris Middleton out right now. But I definitely would want to see Portis in the starting lineup, I think, before I pull the trigger on him at 5,400. Jordan Nwora, I think he's going to be in line for a bigger role this year with the Bucks. He's a guy that can also be really productive when he gets minutes. But 5,100, he feels priced about right, if not a little bit overpriced. I guess Nwora, he is a candidate to start in place of Middleton. So if Nwora does wind up starting, he could maybe be viable at 5,100, but I wouldn't be as excited about him just because I think he is priced where he should be. Whereas I think Portis, if he winds up starting, would be a little cheap. If he's a starter, Portis as a starter should be like over 6K. Nwora playing with Giannis and playing with Drew at 5,100 feels priced about right. But then you got Brook Lopez at 4,800. So like Brook Lopez is never a guy that I really ever get excited to roster, but he'll have some big games at times, and I think his minutes will be pretty solid here. I think he will play like 25 to 30 minutes most nights. Last season, Brook Lopez, he did average around or close to a fantasy point per minute, I do believe. Let's see. So Brook Lopez averaged, 0.95, so pretty close to a fantasy point per minute. And if he does play like 25 to 30 minutes, I would think he's pretty likely to give you 25, 28 DraftKings points, which at 4,800 is solid. Is Brook Lopez a guy that is going to go out there and put up 45, 50 and win you the slate? Probably not. Like I would be surprised if you get that type of game from Brook Lopez, but he can shoot threes, he can get some rebounds, he can block shots. He's a really good shot blocker. He's just a big body that I think they probably want to go up against Embiid. I don't know if Brook Lopez has really had much success against the Sixers in the past, but he's a guy that could maybe they maybe want out there to defend Embiid. So if 4,800 is a value play, like I think Brook Lopez is viable. And then it really thins out. Like there's really not a ton that I'm looking to once you get past Brook Lopez. Grayson Allen might start, but I think at 4,600, Grayson Allen doesn't really stand out to me. He's priced appropriately. George Hill coming off the bench, I'm not really interested in. Same with like Serge Ibaka. None of the bench guys from Philly really did anything in their first game. D'Anthony Melton, I was kind of interested in that opening night slate on Tuesday, and he barely. He played 20 minutes, but he really wasn't productive at all. He had 5 points and 1 steal. D'Anthony Melton is a guy that can be productive when he does get minutes. He played 20 minutes on Tuesday, so if he plays like 20 to 22 minutes again, like I wouldn't be surprised to see him go out there and put up 25 DraftKings points in 20 minutes. He's still cheap too. He's 3,800. He's like a GPP dart throw if you're playing large field tournaments. If you're playing like the big tournament on DraftKings with a lot of entries, then maybe take a shot on D'Anthony Melton coming off the bench. But that's probably it for Milwaukee or for Philadelphia or for this game in general. I guess I do want to mention one more guy. So PJ Tucker is only 3,500. A little bit of a revenge game from him here going up against his former team. PJ Tucker did start for the Sixers on Tuesday, and he will. I'm assuming he will be in the starting lineup. Rest of season. I don't think he really did much as a starter, if I remember correctly. He had 11 fantasy points. He had 6 points, 4 rebounds, and a block. But he did play 33 minutes. It's gonna be hard. You're pretty much not gonna find anyone this cheap that's gonna play 30 plus minutes. And we know we're probably getting 30 plus minutes from PJ Tucker. We all know that PJ Tucker can put up 10 fantasy points in 35 minutes. But if you want to play him for the value, just for the minutes that he's going to get, like if he can make some corner threes, grab a few rebounds, get a couple steals or blocks, I wouldn't be surprised to see him have like 20 DraftKings points. If you're maybe trying to build out like a stars and scrubs lineup, you probably could be looking to a guy like Tucker in those builds. But that's it for this game. I think we can go ahead and talk about the next game, the Clippers and the Lakers. So Clippers, this will be our first time seeing them this season. Their projected starting lineup, I think, is something we will need to keep an eye on. We know that Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, and Ivica Zubac are going to start. There was reports that Reggie Jackson would start at point guard, but supposedly that hasn't been confirmed yet. So it's either going to be Reggie Jackson or John Wall who starts at point guard for the Clippers. We'll talk about that in a second. And then the Lakers, we obviously saw the Lakers who they started Tuesday. I'm assuming the Lakers will run out the same starting lineup. LeBron, AD, Westbrook, Patrick Beverley, and Lonnie Walker. Looking at this game, Lakers and Clippers, definitely have some pay-up options to go to in this one. We got LeBron at 9,300. He probably is my second favorite pay-up option on this slate behind Giannis. When you factor in salary, I do like the savings that you get. Like, LeBron's $1,000 cheaper than Embiid. I definitely think those savings will come into hand. And LeBron has just as much upside as Embiid. LeBron had a massive role on Tuesday night, to no surprise. 33% usage rate, led the team. He averaged 1.7 DraftKings points per minute. He played 35 minutes. I know he put up over 60 DraftKings points. He had like 38 points. I want to say he almost had a triple-double. Let me see. I'm going to pull up the game log real quick. Yeah, LeBron almost had a triple-double on Tuesday. 31 points, 14 rebounds, and 8 assists. Big game from him. I would think his role is going to continue to be massive for the Lakers. Him and Anthony Davis are going to dominate the usage on a nightly basis. 9,300 is still too cheap for LeBron. I think he should be priced up there with guys like Embiid and Giannis. Getting him at a discount is very appealing. So I really like LeBron on this slate. Paul George, I'm not as high on. Like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, now that they're both healthy, at their price tags, I think they're still viable, especially because it is just a 2-game slate and it's not like we have a ton of options. If this was a 12, 13-game slate, I definitely wouldn't be playing PG or Kawhi. But you could take some shots on them at their price tags. But when they're playing together, they do kind of seed some usage a little bit. They're not, Paul George is obviously more productive whenever Kawhi's not out there. Kawhi is more productive when Paul George is not out there. They're going to definitely be playing minutes with alongside each other in this game. 8,900 for Paul George, he has the upside to pay off this price tag. But again, with Kawhi healthy, I'm not in love with Paul George on this slate. And then Kawhi at 8,400. I'm assuming he's going to play full minutes. This is obviously his first game since he tore his ACL, but he was playing during the preseason. He's been ramping up his minutes. I don't know if he played massive minutes during the preseason. I guess we'll have to keep an eye on this, if he's going to be on some sort of limit. But if he's full go, Kawhi is viable at 8,400. Between him or Paul George, I think I'd rather go to Paul George, but when it comes to those two guys, usually they're going to average right around the same amount of fantasy points per minute. I want to say that when Kawhi and PG were both healthy 2 seasons ago, they averaged right around the same points per minute, and their usage rates were pretty similar as well. So when they're priced close together, it's kind of just pick your preference. I lean Paul George, especially because he's not coming back from a torn ACL, and I think there might be some slight limits on Kawhi here. I guess we'll have to pay attention to that, but. The Clippers guys are viable. They're not standout studs, though, for me. I definitely would rather go to LeBron, rather go to Giannis. I think I'd rather go to Anthony Davis as well. Anthony Davis was a guy that I liked a lot on Tuesday's slate, played him in my main lineup, and he had a pretty good game. He played really big minutes, 35.5 minutes for Anthony Davis, 27 points, 6 rebounds, 4 steals, and a block. I think he did have over 50 DraftKings points. 8,600 is still too cheap for Anthony Davis. He had a massive usage rate on Tuesday, 30% usage rate. Him and LeBron were just the two guys really dominating the usage. To no surprise, that's kind of what we all expected. So I think AD looks like a really good option too. Ranking the studs today, I think I would say Giannis number 1, LeBron number 2, and then AD number 3 when you factor in price tag. Obviously Embiid is a good pay-up option too, but he's also a lot more expensive than LeBron and AD. But then some other options, Russell Westbrook, I'm not really interested in. He did start, and I think he did play, decent minutes, but he really wasn't productive at all. Or he did have a double-double. He had 19 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. He did play 30 minutes, but 7K, like I think Westbrook is kind of priced appropriately for what his role is right now with the Lakers. He's just not a guy that I really ever am going to prioritize playing when he's priced where he should be. Now, if Westbrook was like 6K, then I think that would be a totally different story. But at 7K, he's fine, but I'm not really going out of my way to play Westbrook. Reggie Jackson at 6,200. My interest in Reggie Jackson definitely will depend on if he starts or not, and I don't know when we're going to get the Clippers starting lineup. It's probably going to be after lock. If Reggie Jackson starts, like he's in play at 6,200. If he doesn't start, then I'm pretty hesitant to go there coming off the bench. But between Jackson or John Wall, I lean whichever one starts. There is a big price difference. Jackson's 6,200, John Wall's only 4,900. I think if John Wall winds up starting, he's going to be a pretty good value play. We haven't seen John Wall play in a regular season game in what feels like years. But John Wall was productive when he was out there, like dating back to when he was on Houston, obviously when he was with the Wizards. Like he was still a guy that could produce when he was on the floor. He was over a fantasy point per minute player. I want to say that he was pretty productive in the preseason in the time that the minutes that he played during the preseason. So I'm pretty interested in John Wall today if he starts. If he comes off the bench, I think he's still going to play decent minutes. I think if he comes off the bench, he probably plays like mid-20s. If he starts, he might see around 30, maybe even the low 30s. So that's definitely something we'll have to keep an eye on. Whichever point guard for the Clippers starts, I do have some interest in. I would rather it be John Wall because I think John Wall is just a more appealing option. But Reggie Jackson, we know, can produce when given opportunity. If he winds up starting, I think he'll probably see high 20s, low 30s in minutes. Ivica Zubac, you have at 5,300. He looks okay on the slate. Him and Brook Lopez feel like very similar plays. These are guys that are pretty unlikely to go out there and win you the slate, but Zubac should play like mid-20s minutes. They're probably going to need his size out there to go up against Anthony Davis. He'll probably give you like 25, 28 DraftKings points, which at 5,300, it's solid, but obviously that's not going to win you the slate. But Zubac's fine. Norman Powell coming off the bench kind of like as the sixth man for the Clippers. He's viable. He's a guy that does offer some upside. He's a good scorer. He can get hot from three. I think he had some big games during the preseason. Looks like there was a game he scored 34 points in during the preseason. So obviously his usage is not going to be great playing alongside Paul George and playing alongside Kawhi. But since Norman Powell does play with the second unit, since he does come off the bench, he'll definitely get some minutes with those guys not on the floor. I don't know if they're going to stagger Kawhi and PG, but maybe Powell will get some minutes where neither one of Kawhi or PG are on the floor. He should be really productive in those minutes. More of a GPP option, but I definitely think Norman Powell is viable here. And then Marcus Morris is probably the other guy that I'll mention because he is expected to start. Now, the Clippers, man, they are a very deep team. Like, they have a lot of guys off their bench that they're going to play. They're going to play Norman Powell. They're going to play Terrence Mann. They're going to play Robert Covington. Luke Kennard is going to get some minutes. Amir Coffey might get some minutes. They just have a lot of guys. So they're going to probably run like a 10-man rotation, which is a little iffy. But I definitely think if Marcus Morris, assuming he does start, which he's projected to, he is only 4,500. He's pretty cheap. Marcus Morris has never been like a super, super productive point per minute player, especially when Kawhi and PG are healthy. He doesn't have like a massive role. It's not like he's going to demand the ball or anything. But at 4,500, if you're getting 25, 28 minutes from Marcus Morris as a starter, he's going to project out as a pretty decent value play. So if you're looking for some options below 5K, I definitely think Marcus Morris stands out. And then the bench guys, Robert Covington, Luke Kennard, they're just kind of like GPP options. We don't really know how the Clippers are going to divvy up their bench minutes. Again, the Clippers, they are a team that has a lot of depth, so they're probably going to run like a 10-man rotation, maybe even 11-man rotation. But then talking about some of these Lakers values, so Patrick Beverley, Lonnie Walker, both of them started on Tuesday. Patrick Beverley did get into some massive foul trouble, so I want to mention that his minutes were pretty limited. He only played 24 and a half minutes. But he did still score, a decent amount of fantasy points. Now, a lot of that came from defensive stats. He did have 4 steals and 2 blocks, but he also had 3 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists. Beverly, he's a guy that can rack up those defensive stats. He can do a little bit of everything when he's on the floor. He can get some points, some rebounds, some assists. 4,100, he's pretty cheap. If Patrick Beverley starts again, which I assume he will, as long as he stays out of foul trouble, I think he's playing around 30 minutes. So I do like Patrick Beverley quite a bit for value, and I think Lonnie Walker's viable too. Lonnie Walker did not have the best game in his Lakers debut, but he played a lot of minutes. He did play 30 minutes, and I think he did take a good amount of shots. If I want to see, so he only shot 2 for 7, but he did have 5 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block and a steal, and he did play, again, 29 minutes. He had just short of 20 fantasy points. If we're going to get 28, 30 minutes from Lonnie Walker at 4,100, like I think he's in play for value as well. Probably would prefer Beverly, but I do have some interest in Lonnie Walker. And then Kendrick Nunn is still really cheap, and I kind of have some interest in him coming off the bench. I think he was the first guy off the bench for the Lakers on Tuesday. Nunn, he kind of started off poorly. He didn't really do much, early on, but he did kind of heat up a little bit in the second half. Finished with a little bit short than 20 fantasy points, 13 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. Nunn did take 9 shots, played 23 minutes. 3,700. His price tag did come up a little bit. He was minimum salary on Tuesday. Obviously now he's 3,700. I still think at 3,700, Nunn is in play because I think he's going to have a pretty decent role. Even coming off the bench, I think he will play probably mid-20s minutes most nights. And Nunn is a guy that can score. And I think when he gets hot, his minutes could definitely spike. On the days where he's knocking down shots. So 3,700 for Nunn. He's more of a GPP option since he's coming off the bench, but he's viable for me. And that's kind of it for this game, man. Like, I don't see really anything else I'm in love with. I definitely think, Beverly and Lonnie Walker are good values. I do like Marcus Morris for value. If John Wall starts, I think he's a very good value play. And then, LeBron, AD, I do like quite a bit for pay-up options. But that's it for these 2 games for Thursday night, guys. We got a pretty good 2-game slate once again, 2 good games. Hopefully we get some close ones. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, appreciate you guys checking these videos out. Hit that like button if you did enjoy. Hit that subscribe button again if you have not yet. And make sure to check out PrizePicks too. Sign up for PrizePicks and use promo code NOAH. When you do sign up for PrizePicks with my promo code, PrizePicks will match your first deposit up to $100. They are a player prop-based DFS site, so again, you're just taking more or less on a player's projection. You can take a look at the board for Thursday, see the props they have up right now. Obviously, not a ton is available right now, but as we do get closer to the start of the games on Thursday, PrizePicks is going to add even more props that you can take a look at. Obviously, they do offer props in other sports as well. We do have Thursday Night Football on Thursday. We got, I think it's the Saints and the Cardinals playing. You could take a look at the NFL board, see if you like any NFL props. Just make sure that when you guys do sign up for PrizePicks, use that promo code NOAH so that way you do get your deposit bonus when you sign up. But best of luck on this 2-game slate, guys. I appreciate you supporting the channel, watching these videos. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.